As the U.S. stock market is closed for the weekend, we are looking at the final closing figures from Friday, October 31st, 2025. And for Rani Therapeutics Holdings, ticker RANI, the session was nothing short of explosive. The stock finished the day at $2.20 per share, which represented a staggering one-day gain of 51.72%, an increase of 75 cents on the day. This wasn't a low-volume fluke. This move came on absolutely massive trading volume of over 60.7 million shares, which dwarfs its recent averages and signals a dramatic and sudden shift in attention. Even after the bell, the buying continued, with after-hours indications showing the stock pressing on towards $2.56. Now, the immediate cynical expectation when you see a micro-cap biotech stock, one that was trading near 39 cents earlier this year, make a move like this, is that it's a transient, retail-driven pump based on a flimsy press release. The expectation is that this is a flash in the pan. But the reality is that something far more substantial is happening under the hood at Rani, and Friday's explosion was the market suddenly waking up to a fundamental realignment of the company's entire narrative. The story here isn't just a 51% gain. It's about the sudden validation of a high-concept technology and the removal of its single greatest risk, the ticking clock of its cash burn. Let's establish the common ground. For the last year, the general belief about Rani Therapeutics, if anyone was paying attention at all, is that it was a fascinating but deeply speculative science project. Here's a company with a market cap that, even after this spike, is only around $269 million, trying to completely change how biologic drugs are administered. This is the kind of high-risk, pre-revenue story that makes up the bulk of the biotech index. These stocks have been absolutely crushed by the high interest rate environment. With no profits, their future cash flows are discounted to near zero, and the constant need for more funding often leads to endless shareholder dilution. Many investors using platforms like SoFi Invest or looking at their Fidelity IRAs would see this as an untouchable stock, completely different from a blue chip like Apple stock or a momentum giant like Nvidia stock. But here is the challenge to that common ground, the reality that forced Friday's re-rating. On October 17th, Rani Therapeutics announced a massive collaboration and license agreement with Chugai Pharmaceutical, a major Japanese drug maker. This isn't just a small research pact. This deal could be worth up to $1.085 billion. That is not a typo. It's a $10 million upfront payment, which is nice, but it's followed by up to $75 million in development milestones and $100 million in sales milestones for just the first drug target. The real kicker is that Chugai has the option to extend its rights to 5 additional drug targets under similar terms. This is a profound validation of Rani's core technology from a serious pharmaceutical partner. This partner is essentially paying Rani to use its platform, and in doing so, is giving a massive vote of confidence that this technology isn't just science fiction. If that wasn't enough to change the story, the company simultaneously announced a $60.3 million oversubscribed private placement led by serious biotech investors like Samsara Biocapital and RA Capital. This is not just more dilution. This financing, combined with the Chugai cash, is expected to fund the company's operations into 2028. This completely de-risks the balance sheet. The immediate threat of bankruptcy, the reason this stock was near 39 cents, has been taken off the table. The company now has a multi-year runway to execute on its science. This is the kind of development that forces every analyst and every institutional holder to throw out their old models and start from scratch. The 60 million shares that traded hands on Friday wasn't just retail speculation on a Robinhood app. That was the sound of Fidelity Investments, Interactive Brokers, and other institutional desks building or frantically trying to build a position. The trading action itself tells this story. The stock didn't just drift up, it gapped up at the open to $1.55, well above the prior day's close of $1.45. It then ran as high as $2.40 before settling at $2.20. This is classic institutional accumulation mixed with a short squeeze and a heavy dose of FOMO. This kind of volatility is why many automated intelligent portfolio systems, like Schwab Intelligent Portfolios or a SoFi robo-advisor, are designed to avoid stocks like this. They can't quantify the binary risk. But for those engaged in self-investing, this is where the market-beating returns and the catastrophic losses are found. The sheer volume shows that this wasn't a stock you could easily buy fractional shares of without moving the price. The liquidity was desperately needed. And what lit the final match for Friday's rally? On October 30th, the company announced it would be presenting preclinical data at the upcoming Obesity Week conference. The subject? Oral delivery of semaglutide, the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. The abstract reported that their oral version RT116 was bioequivalent to subcutaneous injections in dogs and produced similar weight loss. In the hottest sector of the pharmaceutical market, Rani just signaled that it has a potential Ozempic Pill. This one-two punch of a massive pharma validation and a headline-grabbing obesity drug catalyst is what created the perfect storm we saw on Friday. So, what does Rani Therapeutics actually do? Now that we've covered the recent financial and stock-moving events, let's talk about the technology, because it's the entire basis for this investment. Rani has developed what it calls the Rani Pill. It's essentially a robotic pill. You swallow it, and it's designed to pass through the stomach unharmed. Once it reaches the small intestine, it has a mechanism that activates. A small balloon inflates to orient the pill, and then a tiny, dissolvable needle injects the drug, a large molecule biologic, peptide, or antibody, directly into the intestinal wall. This part of the body has no pain receptors, so you feel nothing. The drug is absorbed directly into the body, bypassing the digestive system that would normally destroy it. The pill components then pass safely out of the body. The entire point is to convert painful, regular injections for chronic diseases into a simple pill. The market for this is almost impossibly large. Think about it. Patients with rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, or psoriasis who have to inject themselves weekly. Osteoporosis patients, and now the big one, obesity and diabetes patients taking GLP-1 drugs. Patient compliance is the single biggest problem in medicine, and the aversion to needles is a primary driver of non-compliance. Rani's platform isn't just a new drug, it's a new delivery system that could be licensed to dozens of companies for their blockbuster drugs. That's precisely what the Chugai deal is all about. It's a platform play, not a single drug gamble. This is a very different business model than a company like Tesla stock, which has to build every car, or Nvidia stock, which has to design every chip. Rani is trying to become the Intel Inside for oral biologics. Let's look at the pipeline this technology enables. We mentioned RT116, oral semaglutide. There's also RT114, a different oral GLP-1, GLP-2 agonist for obesity, which is expected to start its phase 1 trial. But it's not just about obesity. They have RT102, an oral version of a drug for osteoporosis, which is slated for a phase 2 trial. They also had positive phase 1 human data for RT111, an oral version of a biosimilar to Stelara, a massive drug for autoimmune conditions. The company has now successfully completed multiple human phase 1 trials, proving the pill can, in fact, deliver the drug payload safely and effectively. This is moving from a theoretical concept to a clinically proven platform. This is why Fidelity Brokerage and other investing sites are suddenly flashing alerts on this name. This is why it's a top mover on the Fidelity mobile app and the SoFi trading platform. So, what's the future outlook? The expectation is that the company will continue to hit these singles and doubles. The reality is that it now has to face the major leagues. The catalysts are clear. The full data presentation at Obesity Week in early November could be a huge event. The initiation of the Phase 1 trial for RT114 and the Phase 2 trial for RT102 are critical milestones. And of course, any word on the Chugai collaboration, particularly if they opt in for a second or third drug target, would be immensely powerful news, providing even more non-dilutive capital. The risks, however, remain significant. Clinical trials are the great filter. What worked in dogs, the semaglutide data, must work in humans. What worked in a small Phase 1 must work in a large, complex Phase 2 or 3. That is a massive, expensive hurdle. Competition is also fierce. Everyone from Pfizer to tiny startups is working on an oral GLP-1. And finally, there is manufacturing.